The Vatican says the 88-year-old's condition remains stable after nearly a month in the hospital.
Pope Francis has always carried the weight of his role with unwavering strength, but now his body is failing him.
The head of the Catholic Church has been diagnosed with polymicrobial respiratory tract infection that developed into a double pneumonia.
In a moment that stunned the world, he could no longer hold back his emotions. Tears streamed down his face as the burden became too much to bear. For years, he has shouldered the hopes, fears, and struggles of millions. But something has changed. The whispers about his declining health are growing louder, and now he is ready to speak. What is happening behind closed doors? And is the world prepared for what he is about to reveal? Join us as we look into Pope Francis' breakdown in tears and what he has said about his health.
I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your prayers, for my health from the square. I accompany you from here. May God bless you and the Virgin protect you. Thank you.
Pope Francis's failing health. Pope Francis has faced yet another serious setback in what has now become the most difficult health crisis of his time as pontiff. His condition took a troubling turn when he suffered 2 alarming episodes of acute respiratory failure. The Vatican revealed that these episodes were triggered by a dangerous buildup of mucus deep in his bronchi, which led to a bronchospasm, a sudden tightening of the airways that made it extremely difficult for him to breathe. His medical team at Rome's Agostino Gemelli Polyclinic had to act swiftly. They performed 2 emergency bronchoscopies, carefully removing a large amount of mucus from his lungs to help him breathe again. What happened as a result of this? What is the state of the Pope's health now? Stay tuned, the most heartbreaking part is still ahead. Pope Francis has already lived through so much. Decades ago, as a young man, he underwent surgery to remove part of one of his lungs. Even with that challenge, he has led the Catholic Church with unwavering strength. But now, as he faces his most serious health crisis yet, the weight of his years and struggles is becoming more evident. After his admission on February 14, 2025, it wasn't until 4 days later that the Vatican confirmed the heartbreaking news. As a result, every night, faithful believers gather in St. Peter's Square, whispering prayers, holding rosaries, and pleading for his recovery. Across the globe, masses are being dedicated to him, and people of all ages are asking for a miracle. February 17, 2025, was another particularly tough day for Pope Francis. His body reacted in ways that doctors expected with pneumonia, but there was no rise in his white blood cell count, which meant that the infection was not spreading. That was a relief. However, his condition remained serious, and it was still too early to determine when he might be well enough to leave the hospital. Andrea Trove, a respiratory specialist in Rome who has been closely following the updates, has weighed in on the situation. While he is not treating the Pope, he noted that the situation is difficult to interpret. If the breathing failures on February 17th were linked to the Pope's earlier crisis on February 14th, when he accidentally inhaled vomit, it would be less alarming. However, if they were a direct result of his pneumonia, it could mean that the infection was worsening. This uncertainty has left many deeply worried as Pope Francis's health continues to hang in the balance. As a result of this frightening episode, Pope Francis had to be placed back on non-invasive mechanical ventilation. This required him to wear a special mask covering his mouth and nose to assist his breathing. While this was not as severe as being intubated with a breathing tube, it was still a distressing sign of how much he was struggling. Despite the crisis, the Vatican reassured the public that he remained alert, aware, and cooperative throughout the ordeal. The Pope has been battling double pneumonia, a condition that has significantly impacted his ability to breathe. Just a few days earlier, his condition had suddenly worsened. He had vomited and accidentally inhaled the contents, which further compromised his breathing. At that point, doctors had to place him on ventilation to stabilize him. However, by February 23, 2025, his medical team felt hopeful enough to take him off the machine. But their optimism was soon shaken when the worst crisis arrived. His health has become unpredictable, swinging between brief moments of improvement and sudden complications. Every time it seems like he is getting better, another frightening episode pulls him back into danger. The day his condition took another downturn had started off calmly. The Vatican had shared that Pope Francis had slept well the night before. In the morning, he woke up, had breakfast, and even took time to read the newspaper. For a brief moment, things seemed stable, but by the afternoon, everything changed. His breathing difficulties worsened again, proving that he is still very much at risk. A Vatican official, speaking anonymously, admitted that despite his resilience, the Pope's condition remains serious. He is not out of danger yet. The situation remains tense, with the world watching and praying for Pope Francis as he fights through one of the hardest battles of his life. As he continues this fight, his body is struggling against the bacteria that caused his double pneumonia. The mucus buildup in his lungs remains a concern, but officials have stated that this is not a sign of a new infection. It is simply his body's natural response as it tries to heal. However, due to his deteriorating health, the Vatican has announced that Cardinal Angelo de Donatis, a former vicar of Rome, will take the Pope's place at the Ash Wednesday Lent service. It is a sobering reminder of how serious his condition has become, one of the most significant days in the Catholic calendar, and the Pope himself will not be there. As the days stretch into weeks, his time in the hospital has now neared a full month. The long hours of medical treatment have taken their toll, but even in his weakest moments, he has remained alert, responsive, and cooperative with his doctors. Now, as the world watches and waits, the Catholic Church stands united in prayer. They are asking for strength, for healing, for a recovery that seems increasingly uncertain. Pope Francis, the man who has carried so many burdens, now finds himself in need of the prayers of the faithful more than ever. Well, in all these, his health issues go way back. Pope Francis's health condition over the years. Pope Francis's health has been a subject of concern for many years, with a history of medical challenges that have only intensified with age. From respiratory issues to surgeries and chronic pain, his health struggles have shaped much of his time as Pope. His lung problems date back to his youth. At just 21 years old, he was diagnosed with pleurisy, an inflammation of the lung lining, and had part of his lung removed. While he managed to live with this condition for decades, his respiratory health has continued to be a major issue. Since early 2023, he has faced repeated bouts of influenza and other related illnesses. In November of that year, his health forced him to cancel a planned trip to the COP28 Climate Summit in Dubai due to lung inflammation. What else do we not know about the Pope's health condition? Brace yourself. What you're about to hear will blow your mind. Beyond respiratory issues, Pope Francis has also suffered physical injuries in recent years. In December 2024, he fell at his residence, leaving him with a bruised chin. A month later, in January 2025, he fell again, this time injuring his arm.
Padre, un placer. Scusami, ma tiene la mano regular. Bueno, un placer.
These incidents have raised concerns about his mobility and overall physical stability. His struggles have not been limited to falls and respiratory illnesses. Pope Francis has also undergone major abdominal surgeries. In July 2021, he had a 6-hour operation to remove 33 centimeters or 13 inches of his colon due to diverticulitis, a painful bowel condition. Although the surgery was successful, he later revealed in 2023 that the condition had returned. In June 2023, he was hospitalized again for an abdominal hernia.
Pope Francis has been discharged from Rome's Gemelli Hospital 9 days after having surgery for an abdominal hernia and scarring,
which had been causing painful intestinal blockages. He remained in the hospital for 9 days following the procedure. Chronic pain has been another constant battle for the Pope. He has long suffered from sciatica, a nerve condition that causes intense pain in his back, hip, and legs. Additionally, he developed a painful knee condition.
Ginocchio non finisce di guarire e non posso essere in piedi tanto tempo,
which he has tried to manage with laser and magnet therapy. Because of this, he now depends on a wheelchair or cane to move around. In response to his ongoing health challenges, the Vatican has repeatedly adjusted his schedule. His public appearances have been scaled back when necessary, and his commitments are often reassessed based on his physical condition. While Pope Francis has remained determined to fulfill his duties, his health struggles have become increasingly difficult to ignore, painting a picture of a leader who continues to push forward despite the many challenges he faces. As Pope Francis continues to battle his health struggles, and as already mentioned earlier, Catholics around the world have been gathering in prayer, hoping for his recovery. In cities across different continents, vigils have been held, with people lighting candles and offering prayers for his strength. Outside the Gemelli Hospital in Rome, where he has been receiving treatment, the base of the statue of the late Pope John Paul II has become a sacred space of devotion. Decorated candles, flowers, and pictures of Pope Francis have been placed there, symbolizing the deep love and concern people have for him. With his health challenges becoming more pronounced, questions have emerged about whether this could affect his role as Pope. Some reports suggest that discussions have taken place about whether he might consider stepping down, following in the footsteps of his predecessor, Pope Benedict XVI. However, the Vatican has not confirmed any of these reports. Pope Francis himself has previously acknowledged the possibility of resignation. Shortly after his election in 2013, he wrote a resignation letter, stating that if his medical condition ever prevented him from fulfilling his duties, he would step down. This mirrors what Pope Benedict XVI did when, at the age of 85, he cited a lack of strength of mind and body as the reason for his resignation. Despite the concerns, there is no indication that Pope Francis is incapacitated. Even during his hospital stay, he has remained actively engaged in his responsibilities. He has continued making important decisions, such as appointing bishops, demonstrating his commitment to leading the Catholic Church, even in the face of personal health struggles. His sense of duty extends beyond administrative tasks. During his first 2 days in the hospital, he made sure to maintain his daily phone calls.
This is what happens to the Catholic community in Gaza every day at 7 p.m.
with Reverend Gabriel Romanelli, the parish priest of Gaza's only Catholic church, and his assistant, Father Yusuf Assad. Even as Gaza City experienced a complete blackout, Pope Francis insisted on finding a way to reach them. Against all odds, he managed to connect via a video call, showing his unwavering support for those affected by the ongoing conflict in the region. This reflects the kind of leader Pope Francis has been throughout his papacy. Since 2013, he has led the world's 1.4 billion Catholics with a deep sense of compassion and responsibility. As the first Latin American and first Jesuit Pope, he has brought a unique perspective to the role, emphasizing care for the marginalized and a commitment to global issues. While his health remains a serious concern, his actions make it clear that he is still carrying out his mission, even from a hospital bed. Whether or not he chooses to step down, his influence and dedication continue to shape the Catholic Church and the world. Instances of Pope Francis in tears. Beyond his health issues, the Pope has indeed had moments of deep sorrow, when the weight of human suffering becomes too much. the Pope has wept openly. His tears are not just his own. They are for the forgotten, the wounded, the broken. They are for the world. Pope Francis's journey to Canada was one such moment. He had come with a heavy heart, carrying the pain of generations who had suffered in residential schools. Standing before Indigenous communities, he spoke of the horrors inflicted on their children who had been ripped from their families, stripped of their identities, and forced into silence. Some never made it home. So what did the Pope have to say about this? What is his view about unjustified killings of children? You're at the edge of your seat, and it's about to get even better. As he asked for forgiveness, the emotions in the crowd were overwhelming. Some felt a sense of healing, while others felt the wounds of the past tearing open once again. Across the country, support lines were flooded with calls as survivors relived memories they had buried for decades. Mental health workers stood by, ready to help, but the weight of history was impossible to ignore. For many, this was not just about the past. The trauma had seeped into their families, their communities, their very way of life. It was a wound that had never fully healed. The Pope's words, his presence, his apology, it was all a reminder of the suffering that had shaped entire nations. And this was not the only time Pope Francis had been moved to tears. The war in Ukraine had left him shattered.
Ti vergogna, ma se continui così, quanti morti e poi, e finirà peggio ancora.
He had spoken about it countless times, urging the world to see the devastation, to hear the cries of the innocent. But on one particular day, standing before a statue of the Virgin Mary in Rome, he could no longer hold back his grief. As he began to pray, his voice trembled. He tried to continue, but the pain was too much. He stopped. His head bowed. His shoulders shook. For nearly half a minute, he was silent, overcome with emotion. The crowd watched in stunned stillness. Some gasped. Others wept with him. Even the mayor of Rome, standing beside him, was frozen in place. When he finally found the strength to continue, his voice was unsteady, breaking under the weight of sorrow. He had wanted to bring words of gratitude, to speak of hope, but instead, he could only bring the desperate cries of those suffering. He spoke of the children, the mothers, the elderly, the countless lives shattered by war. Later, a journalist approached him, mentioning how deeply he had been affected in that moment. His response was simple. This war, this endless suffering, was a tragedy for all of humanity. No one truly wins in war. It destroys everything and everyone it touches. Through all of this, his tears have spoken louder than words. They have carried the pain of nations, the sorrow of history, and the grief of those who cannot cry for themselves. And in those moments, when the world has seen him break, it has also seen his heart, wide open, aching, and full of love. Even now, with his health failing him, he is still remembered for being a pope who didn't see emotions as weakness. What are your thoughts about this challenging health issue? Do you think the Pope will become perfectly healthy soon? Let us know what you think in the comments section. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Click on the next video displayed on your screen. You will enjoy it.